Hello everyone, Dynamode here. Welcome to another episode of Quick Thoughts, where I discuss and share my impressions about topics, whatever I find interesting. So today's episode, let's talk about the first Descendant open beta. It is a free-to-play Korean third-person sci-fi co-op looter shooter developed and published by Nexon Games. Overall, the game is not bad. I had fun in small doses, but I have some major gripes with it that I'll explain in a minute. I'm gonna cite both positive and negative aspects, so stick around. By the way, the footage you see before you is the PlayStation 5 version. Alright, positive number 1. Stability. The game ran fine from what I experienced on console, above average. I had no issues playing with it for several hours. I am running this on performance modes, so I saw no stutters, the landscapes rendered nicely from a distance, and load times are very fast. I talked to my other buddies who also plays on Xbox and PC, and they say that it ran fine for them too. So I was curious, I switched to fidelity mode for graphic enhancements. While it does look visually better, it kind of hindered the frame rate for a bit. Positive number 2, graphics and art direction. It's stunning in my opinion. I would say the game looks clean, crisp, fluid, colorful even, and it has a fair amount of contrast to tell the difference between the characters versus the environment. As for art direction, it has that typical Korean MMO aesthetic, you know, where everybody looks fair to porcelain skin toned, youthful, handsome, even the ugly ones, and hair quality that looks like they just got out of the shower from a shampoo commercial. Positive number 3, the controls. The movement is very responsive, it feels snappy and quick. Even when I put it on the lowest sensitivity settings, the controls still feel great. Also, there is no input delay even when there is a high number of enemies and players on screen, so that's a huge plus. Let's see what else. Jumping, grappling, and landing got a slight amount of weight to them, so it doesn't feel floaty at all. The gunplay, it is top notch, by far the best in a third-person shooter because most of these type of third-person shooters are not well done. The gunplay here is smooth, fast, and adjusts well in the thick of combat. Though if you have aim assist on, it's way too strong because there are times where I try to get a headshot, but the aiming reticle keeps forcing down to their body, so I suggest turning it off if you're playing on a controller and mouse and keyboard. Positive number 4, loot and incentives. I would say that there is plenty of that here and what many are here for. We got tons of guns, equipment, mods for stats and powers, and hundreds of different types of materials to collect and so on. Weapon archetypes and variety, it's a fair assortment but nothing crazy. I mean, the drop rate are like candy for every little mission you participate in, so your inventory will almost always be full for less than a few hours of play. But that could change in the final game. Though I would like to point out that the majority of these guns don't have intrinsic perks, meaning there is no specific or specialty built within these guns. The majority of this are going for the more traditional RPG route, meaning the higher the gun's level, the higher the damage it deals, which also scales to your character's overall base level versus the enemy. But that's where weapon and character mods will come into play most of the time, where you can fully customize a baseline function, I repeat, just the baseline function of your guns and characters. Examples, mods where it gives you higher rate of fire or a bigger ammo capacity, and then there are mods that can lower your recoil. And examples for character mods, which are basically your gear, they are simple and straightforward, like more health, increased elemental skill damage. So to summarize, the loot grind, the drop rate frequency are very high, so you'll always find something regardless of what you do. And positive number 5, booty and waifu. Yes, they're all hot. All the characters are hot, and I'm pretty sure that's what most people are going to play this game for. There's going to be plenty of Rule 34 fan art of these characters, and that is fine by me, and they know their audience and who is going to play this game. Community fan art is what keeps this game alive. I'm telling you, if you don't believe me, I mean, let's take an example of Overwatch 2. Despite having a massive negative reception, the porn is still going strong there. So you can say that with any other game fandom anywhere else. They keep the community alive, no doubt. And now we move on to the negative. I got tons to say about this. Let's start off with negative number 1. Powers and abilities. From what I've experienced, they are lackluster, weak, and not really game-changing at all. But every time I play a character, any character, I want to feel like
I am God!
And I am not talking about stats and numbers. I know many people will argue and just go, oh, you just gotta level them up properly and find the right mods to make them stronger. No, that's not where I'm going at. It is too rigid, because none of them are fundamentally game-breaking from the base functionality of the core game. What I'm trying to say is that there is no feedback and reaction from the player versus enemy. It is not there. You know what I mean? It's like the enemies do not stagger, they don't get knocked back, they're not stunned, Or in other words, they do not feel your momentum you throw at them. Example, it's like whenever I cast my ability as Vesa, I can't pronounce her name, the Ice Lady, she throws ice shards to freeze them. Instead, it just tickles them. Even when I am at a higher level, one-shotting these bad guys, it doesn't carry that same impact for being a higher level anyways. Another example of a character is Bunny, whose character archetype revolves around speed and electricity. Her game plan is to run around the map to build MP in order to cast her powers. And when I do succeed, I cast her abilities, the enemies just ignore them. They have no reaction to it. I did all that extra steps for nothing. In other words about powers and abilities, they are poorly designed. With that said, in contrast to that, I'm going to compare it to another game, and I know many people will not like this. There's this game called Outriders. Despite the mixed reception it had, it did one thing right. Outriders made you feel powerful. For those who don't know what's Outriders, it is like Diablo with guns, set in a sci-fi post-apocalyptic setting on a different planet. What I'm trying to say is, what Outriders done perfectly was how the enemy felt upon your presence on the battlefield. You struck fear into their hearts. And even when you fight stronger enemies, they also prove a challenge to you in a fun way. Because the engagement of throwing fireballs and boulders back and forth at each other, how we as a player versus the enemy perceive made the difference in our abilities displayed in the fight. The first Descendant does not deliver that. Negative number 2, the economy and the grind. All I gotta say is that it is overwhelming and it's too much. The economy and grind is straight up ass and terrible. I know I mentioned loot drops and stuff earlier before, but that's just part of the base gameplay, where it's free and it's supposed to feed you constantly, giving you that instant satisfaction, hitting that pleasure center in your brain where you find loot. The real deal in this game are the Descendants, which are the individual characters with their own unique skills and ability, the cosmetics, and special powerful endgame weapons that change the playing field. Oh yes, you can actually and legitimately buy power to make yourself stronger. Reminder, this is a free-to-play game after all. So I want to break it down to this, about the economy. So checking out the in-game store, you can unlock more Descendants, but getting there is an uphill battle from the start. Looking at the requirements, you need 4 base ingredients. These are called a code, a spiral, catalyst, enhanced cells, which are all basically blueprints to unlock a new character. Now here's the kicker. You need a truckload of raw materials you find throughout the open world. Main missions, side quests, boss fights, enemy drops, in order to craft one of 4 of the base ingredients, and each of them takes hours upon doing. And you want to know the most pain in the ass part of this? Most of the stuff you collect, these raw materials, you cannot do alone. This is not a solo friendly game. And by the way, all this methods also applies to the powerful endgame weapons too. So yeah, good luck with that. Which brings me to negative number 3, relating to my previous statement. The empty world, playing alone, and how mission objectives drag on far too long. So, getting into the open world, upon playing it, it is dead, plain, and kinda boring. There's nothing roaming out there in the wilderness. It does not feel alive, though I hope it changed in the final build. Enemies only appear if you activate the objective beacon located around your area, which I know is pretty standard for most MMO-like games, but to me, this is so lifeless. Then I want to get on to the mission objectives and quests. Personally enjoyed about the first Descendant that the instructions are clear and navigating through them is easy, unlike Destiny. But, just like Destiny, side quests tend to drag on forever, taking long hours to complete, and it feels a little mundane near the end of each play session. And this also brings me to field missions for solo players who go out there and explore this empty, lifeless open world. Most average quests takes about 5 to 10 minutes to finish, easy tops, but others that require about a solid 20 to 30 minutes, they are not solo friendly. You definitely need at least one partner to beat them. Also, maybe this is just me, I find this design counterintuitive when you fight like main enemies or big bosses, but sometimes enemies regenerate their health so ridiculously fast. I'm not sure if this is a bug or intentional. Please let me know. Negative number 4, Cold Dead Eye Stares. Honestly, it is creepy as hell, man. If you just look at it long enough, watching their mouth just moves, it's just like, they don't blink. It's creepy. Like, I just usually skip the dialogue, just give me my gun and let me get out of here, man. There's something about their eyes that they never seem to animate properly. I don't know why. That's just a personal thing, by the way. Negative number 5, the comparison to other looter shooters or other MMO-like games. Of course, the first Descendant, the first comparison you come up with this game is Warframe and sometimes Destiny. Comparing these games, it will never end at all. The first Descendant is another looter shooter dilemma that will blur the line for all of us for many years. And that is something that this game will not escape. Yes, it is copying a formula that's been done since the early 2010s. But will it live up to the hype? Will it make it easy for us? Or will it become like mundane and boring after a couple hours of play? I know I felt that when I hit about 7 or 8 hours playing the first Descendant. It's like a nice candy wrapper, you know, they have pretty girls, it looks great on the outside, but how's the center? Does it taste good? Thank you for making it near the end of the video. I want to say this last negative one, and this is more of a personal matter to me. Please comment below and let me know. Okay, the first Descendant. This game got beautiful characters, sexy ladies, fan service aesthetics, and excellent costume designs. I love it all, but there's just one problem. They do not have my type of girl up in here, like none at all. Don't get me wrong, all the female characters in here are fine as hell. Even the dudes look good, and I don't even swing that way. But knowing it's Nexon Games, a Korean game, they're just gonna focus on their demographic and the type of audience who love these type of ladies, from Asian to Eurocentric features. Now, I have nothing against that, I'm all for it. They're popular, there's no denying that. But according to my personal preference, I think they will not have Nubian women in this game. There's something about dark brown skinned women they're not too fond of over there, which is kind of sad. And I'm sure most of you know the answer already, and I'm not gonna bother repeating it several times. I bet they won't even get to have a moderate caramel skin tone woman over there either. And I know some of you are gonna argue, what about Sharon? She's dark skinned, isn't she? Bro, she's not even an olive skin tone complexion. She's more like a light beige, a super light beige. And believe me, that's the furthest they'll ever go. Plus, look at her features. I know I sound super shallow, but I keep hearing y'all talking about, man, this game have sexy girls unlike Western developers who cannot make them decent. And I come at you with this response saying, okay, cool, do they have beautiful black female characters too? And some of you with a stupid reaction go all like, oh nah, that's too woke. They can't have Western influences on this game. And I get really upset with that type of answer. And I state back saying, what the hell? I thought we all came to an agreement we want sexy, good-looking women in our games. Or does that only apply to certain demographics while you hold a certain worldview standard among others? If so, then that's pretty fucked up, because that really says a lot about you, more so than me, my friend. And end rant. Sorry everyone, I got carried away there for a bit. I apologize for that. Feel free to disagree with what I just said, but I'm just stating how I personally feel about the first Descendant. But I love to be proven wrong. Come back in another few years or so if the game gets some more updates. Alright, I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Dine Mode out.